Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. We're once again bringing you the Topeka Factor with myself, Marshall Barber, and Henry McClure.
Henry McClure Live.
Henry McClure Live.
Yes, from the Henry McClure Live Show. I'm honored to be on your show.
Well, no, I'm honored to be on your show. This is our show. We're honored that you would be joining us to watch this show. Thanks for watching today.
And I think that we can fill a niche to help people want to live in Topeka, Kansas. Because I find there's a lot of good reasons to live in Topeka.
It's an existential question which must be answered. Why live in Topeka?
Well, and I think sometimes the Topeka factor is people being negative, which I don't understand.
There has been this issue going back, as far as I can remember, to a sort of collective inferiority complex, which I guess still pervades the thinking of some people. But I think more people are starting to understand the advantages of living in a moderate-sized community of, say, slightly less than 200,000 people, as opposed to a megalopolis.
Well, so for me, you know, I knew I didn't want to live in Los Angeles, but via Kansas City, which was a beautiful town, I lived at 96th and State Line.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Officed at 95th and Knoll. I did the leasing for then MedCap. Now this is like right at 2000, or no, sorry. This is 98 or so, or 97. I'm a little bad with time, but MedCap South, Metro North, East Hills in St. Joe, and then I had them all in Toledo, working for MD Management.
Toledo, Ohio?
Yeah.
Wow. Home of the Toledo Mudhens. Seriously. I still have a Mudheads t-shirt at home.
Well, Toledo was kind of a cool town, and I really had a fun time working for MD Management. You know, what I liked about him was, like, I got to operate East Hills. And so I literally would sign every payroll check. So the people that worked for me, they towed the line.
Toledo is kind of like Topeka in that it's 3 syllables ending in a vowel. Toledo, Topeka. So, but it's on it's on Lake Erie, isn't it?
Is this nomenclature?
Yeah. Okay, so having gone from Kansas City commercial real estate to Topeka real estate, in the year 2022.
Oh no! Well, I went. So after Kansas City, I went down to Tampa and did another stint. So that was actually my second time living in Florida, and Tampa was so far behind in infrastructure. It was literally easier to get around LA than it was Tampa.
I've heard that about other cities too.
So
some of these cities that grew too fast for the existing highway system.
And it just didn't feel like the infrastructure was ever going to catch up.
Right. Well, how do you catch up?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't even work around yourself.
Right.
And then we actually have the exact opposite of, you know, we've got infrastructure in a subdivision out on Lawrence Bay.
We've got lots of that.
And you know something, what we need to do today, you know, we're just a deal away. You know, take the land back, auction it off, pay as much back tax as you can, waive the specials, you know, don't let the existing owners profit in any way. Like, you can't come back, you know, and take advantage of the break you got, but you got to let them off the hook. You got to just let people start building based on the regulations of the subdivision. And see,
you're walking right into one of my pet peeves here.
Okay. Well, see, I just look at it. It's like, not everything can be a deal, and take a commercial approach. So I've always taken a commercial approach to real estate, even if it's a residential deal. You know what I mean? There's like, it's like we were talking in another episode about your Westboro factor, you know, the Westboro deal. So what? The bones are there. Let's just put a new skin on it and renovate the whole
And
thing?
of course, the basic dichotomy here between residential
Isn't
and
that a
commercial.
motorcycle?
Yeah,
A dichotomy?
yep, 0 to 100 in a second and a half. But to someone buying a house, it's a residential proposition. All they're doing is getting a mortgage for a single-family residence. But when you're talking, okay, who built the house? And who's building that house now? Well, that gets into commercial, because that guy or woman, to build that house, they gotta have a building lot. To have a building lot, they gotta have a street, they gotta have sewer, they gotta have infrastructure. And that's where the commercial, interest rates and whatnot come into play.
All right, so this segment is all commercial real estate.
In Lawrence Bay,
Okay, well,
or wherever.
but if you got 102 lots you can build on, that's a commercial play. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, is that how many we have?
There's 102 lots that haven't paid real estate taxes in a decade.
Wow. See, and I wonder, when you mention that, I can read in the Wall Street paper about all these national home builders who want to build houses to rent, actually. And
Well, yeah, because of the money that is it Blackwell or no,
Oh.
Blackstone.
Yeah, Blackstone, yeah,
They're throwing off huge returns.
billions.
Yeah. So you wanted to talk about market rents for a commercial deal. So let's talk about that.
An interesting question is, let's say you got an idea for a restaurant. Maybe you've got an idea for,
I've already had those ideas.
okay, well,
I'm sober enough now not to want to do that, but go ahead.
let's say you've,
Well, I can't think of really anything tougher than being in the restaurant business.
well, or the bar business. There's-
Well, I think the bar business has probably got a little shot of being easier
Yeah.
to keep your customers happy.
Lots of cash flow there. Okay, but let's say.
I could be in the bar business now that I've been sober for 7 years, but
Well,
feel a little guilty.
as opposed to retail, as opposed to office, specifically businesses that serve food, restaurants. What could someone expect to pay per square foot in Topeka?
Okay, well, but
In, say,
it
prime
also
locations.
depends. So there you go. It all comes down to the location, and then it comes down to the rate of return that you really need to get on the building, and it also comes down to the triple net charges. Our real estate taxes are so exorbitant. You got to make sure that you get real estate taxes reimbursed in the triple net charges of the lease.
And this goes back to reappraisal and reassessment, when they cleverly made the reappraisal rate 25% for commercial, as opposed to residential, which is like 12%.
Well, so, I mean, and then,
You got a building that's commercial, you pretty much get to buy your building back from the county every 10 or 15 years.
the economic development of our community was supposed to broaden our tax base, but yet the
There you
mill
go.
levy keeps going up.
Yeah, yeah, that's but
But
returning
here-
to the basic question. If someone
Okay.
has,
So it's all going to be based on the location. It's going to be based on how much you have in the building, because now it's all about getting a return on the investment. But it's also, you got to fill up space. So
Yeah.
like right now, I'm trying to formulate new rents for White Lakes Plaza because it needs love.
right off of 37th and Topeka.
Yeah, where Abigail's is, the liquor store.
Yeah,
And we just resurfaced the parking lot. We're going to paint the building. So we're going to add value to the building to make, at least to ensure that Abigail's and the liquor store succeed. But I'm also trying to move the liquor store back to the back where the car guy, or where the bike shop used to be, and then do a drive-through for that guy.
yeah.
And then expand Abigail's. So, really you have to, so we got to do new HVAC, and you have to contemplate, well, what's going on in the market? Is the landlord paying for the tenant improvement? Is the tenant paying for the tenant improvement? In really good times, back in the mall business, we never gave any construction allowance. We would, Mace Rich, we always fought to keep the common area maintenance as low as possible, because the lower the CAM charges are for, parking lot sweeping, cleaning the floors, the electrical lighting, the lower those net charges are, the more rent you can, charge.
Sure, okay.
And so we used to, am I answering your question anywhere in this? Because, and it's all on a case-by-case basis. So this corner is not going to be exactly what this space is going to be, because they could be two completely different properties that have two completely different scenarios behind them of what you would need to get in rent. So there's not just one blanket, hey, we're getting, $10 a square foot plus the net charges.
Well, I wonder, for example.
But also, too, I can come up with that number now that I've joined Crexy, the new LoopNet. Crexy, the new LoopNet, CoStar, put together by commercial brokers, for commercial brokers. And so I can...
Can members of the public who aren't brokers get onto these websites?
Yes, you can when it comes for rent and for sale, but not really comparables.
Okay.
So we could take, and then I'm going to share my comparable information with Crexy, just as the Board of Realtors shares, the listing and sale prices.
Yeah, like members of the public can get on our website to get prices when a property is for sale. Members of the public cannot get onto the website and find out what it sold for when it closed. I guess you're saying similarly in commercial.
Yeah, I mean, later on, you can look it up on the county. Mm-hmm. You can always find it from the county value.
Right. Except the county's not going to have, on commercial, the county's not going to have what something rented for per square foot.
No, they won't. But usually, you can call another real estate guy, and there isn't any reason they won't share with you. Most likely, KS Commercial, Doug Bassett, Associated Commercial Brokers. Yeah, I think they would share with you, hey, what do you think?
Oh, so in talking about downtown, what is your sense as somebody who is actively moving downtown? What is your sense of how the rents are doing in downtown Topeka?
Well, that's a good question. And I tell you something, it was very discouraging the other day to watch a successful fella who's put a lot of capital into downtown, building the Pennant, the Iron...
The hotel?
Yeah, the hotel.
Iron Rail.
Iron Rail. To have him say, you know what, I'm exhausted, and Topeka is exhausting me.
That guy's also, by the way, I happened to be driving through the Gage Shopping Center, which was a crumbling wreck. And it was very sad because I used to spend a lot of time in the Gage Shopping Center, both at Woolworth's and Shafford and Grimes.
Oh, man, I remember Woolworth.
So it
Get a hot dog and a milkshake.
It used to be everybody's got their own personal frame of reference, but for me personally, watching Gage Center decline was really depressing. Those guys drive over there now. Every parking lot, every parking spot is full because those guys have filled up two of those buildings with offices. So the guy can we say who it is?
Well, why not? Cody Foster.
Yeah.
And Seth. And think about Cody. Here he is. He's just really a part-time guy.
Yeah.
He's got a day job that, fortunately for him, pays a lot of money. Mm-hmm. He's been successful. And it was interesting the way he said it because, it was almost like he was pitching for a guy like me. Because, if a guy like him's having trouble, think about a guy like me that doesn't have as much resources. But Howard Paul told me the other day, he goes, Howard said, drive to Salina. He goes, look at downtown Salina, same renovation of Topeka, but it's full. So I'm gonna take a trip over there.
Pilgrimage to Salina, they have that beautiful theater there. I'll probably mispronounce it, but is it Stiefel?
Yeah.
The venue for live performances?
Well, and I think they're related to the Stiefels. I think they're related to the Stiefels at Topeka Performing Arts. I think.
Could be. In any case, that's an interesting comparison because you wouldn't think of Salina necessarily as being a place that would draw a lot of people.
But they've got it's centrally located. You can zip down to Wichita.
Exactly.
They got a big airport. Salina Airport's a lot more user-friendly than our airport.
So
have you ever tried to do a deal out at the airport?
No.
Yeah.
I have not tried to do a deal out there.
Let me tell you something. It's a lot easier to get a deal done in Salina.
Okay, so the comments that were being made reflected on some difficulties with fighting some headwinds in the downtown area. Those headwinds maybe being, now someone's calling to complain about your...
No, well, we're not going live. They'll complain later.
I think the comments you were referring to had to do with some difficulties with planning, or where?
Well, and I think really, I just think it's the hoops that the city makes you jump through. I think that the case in point was that after the Topeka Planning Commission had approved the deal, the Landmarks Commission didn't. And,
yeah, they get involved in it.
And then the city council had to override, but it's just the time and effort, you know what I mean? And you can't have a place become a landmark vacant, you know what I mean? There's a point in time where you just got to move on.
If it's become vacant.
Well, there was nothing significant about the building.
Let's define landmark. I
mean,
if it's vacant and it's been vacant for a long time, then what is it a landmark of?
You want to. Okay, sorry, did I interrupt?
Well, this gets back to an earlier discussion we had about, does the Planning Commission and other regulatory agencies...
That's exactly where I was going.
Do they want to act as gatekeepers? And that's unfortunately how a lot of these people see themselves.
Did you know I was a planning commissioner?
You said that.
So...
Or do they want to act as facilitators?
You know why we got the Metropolitan Planning Commission disbanded?
No.
Because we tried to do something.
Oh.
We tried to be active.
And then what?
We were disbanded. So I was a member of the Topeka Shawnee County Metropolitan Planning Commission.
So this was a combination of...
You had people appointed by the city, people appointed by the county, but also, do you remember Robert Docking?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Robert Docking, you mean the governor?
Yeah, Governor Docking. So as Eisenhower's federal highway program went across the country.
Yes.
Then governors were given the rights, or depending on, they had the authority to create what was called Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Right.
MPO.
Okay.
Okay, so the MPO actually was to decide where the federal funds go.
Okay.
Okay? So as the federal funds come into the community, the MPO was to decide where those dollars went.
Okay.
Okay? So Docking decided that the Planning Commission, Metropolitan Planning Commission across the state, would also act as the MPO.
Okay.
Okay, because here you've got people from the city and the county. And so the rule was, I went over and met with the Federal Highway Authority guy. And I got a real laugh out of him. He goes, oh, good luck trying to change Topeka. No, really, he knew the Topeka Factor back then.
I see.
And there were a lot of good, solid citizens on this metropolitan planning. You know Ned Nussbaum? Do you remember him?
Very well.
Yeah,
He
Ned.
was a guidance counselor at Topeka West.
He was a respectable guy.
He was.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, unlike a dog-eared real estate guy,
He was a professional educator.
Yeah.
In the best sense of that word, yes.
but, even-keeled, calm guy. But we had really got the Planning Commission wanting to exercise their authority as the MPO. So the way the federal funds were supposed to trickle into the community is that you take the county's capital improvement plan and you take the city's capital improvement plan and you look at the projects. And then you have public involvement. You get the public, they look at the projects, you figure out how much money you've got to spend, and then basically through this process, you decide where the federal dollars go.
Okay.
Well, the county wasn't submitting they didn't have a CPI. A CIP, I mean.
Okay.
They didn't even, so what they were doing
What is the
basically,
CIP?
the capital improvement program.
Okay.
Okay, so what they did, they were just taking the federal dollars that came into the community and divided by two.
Okay.
They weren't following the guidelines to qualify for the federal funds. So we became an activist planning commission. An activist in so much as, well, we're just going to do our job and follow the law.
Okay.
I mean, that's the novice approach. But
Who knew? Yes.
But Vic Miller was more he was more worried about putting toilet seats in front of our mayor's office. He got very angry over us embarrassing the county, and it wasn't very long after that the Planning Commission, the Metropolitan Planning Organization or Commission was disbanded.
Disbanded. Okay.
So then now you had a city planning commission,
Correct.
and a county planning commission.
Okay.
And
that's
then
what we have now.
yeah, and that's bad, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Well, because
Tell us why. 7 minutes?
7 minutes. Wow, I got to get off my soapbox. But this is important because this is commercial development. Because where infrastructure goes, development goes.
Certainly.
But this is why it's bad, and really bad, is because of the 3-mile radius. Okay?
Okay, I'm with you.
So-
3-mile radius.
So the planning department,
If you do something within 3 miles of
the
city
city
limits-
planning department can stick their beak in it.
But does either planning department have the legal authority to override?
No,
Yeah.
then you would have to create a third planning commission.
Uh,
The state statute actually, when there's not a metropolitan planning commission, a third planning commission is created to be the referee. So why don't we just go back to one planning commission?
Why don't we?
Let's just do it.
Why don't we?
That could be the most
So-
important thing that we could do for economic development in our community. Because Cody Foster will stand down there and say, hey, I'm having problems. But how many people just had projects in that 3-mile area that you never hear about?
Was that the nature of his complaint?
What?
The 3-mile radius?
No,
And
it was about just how difficult it is to work within the city of
because he was
Topeka.
strictly within the
Right.
jurisdiction of the city.
But you
Right,
mentioned
yeah.
in another show that we did, the church and the house and all that.
I gotta follow through on that. I haven't
See-
heard anything more about that lately.
And so what I tell the city is you ought to listen to the county commissioners. But see, here's the thing with the 3-mile radius, you don't have a political guy to complain to because you didn't vote for anybody in the city. You didn't vote for any of the city council people,
Right,
and your county commissioners can't do anything about it.
right.
So there is the,
You're essentially disenfranchised.
exactly.
That's not good.
And from a Topeka factor, we need to fix that. Because really, basically, our community's the border of Shawnee County, whether we like it or not.
That makes sense.
We really do, and that's what we are.
Yeah. All this does is seems, well, I'm probably the last person to really know about this, but it seems like it would just, it creates this weird kind of overlapping jurisdiction
Well,
where people are constantly going back and forth and never getting a final answer.
what if the planning department wanted to discourage development out on the fringe and just wanted you to go to downtown? They might make it more difficult for you to get your deals done in the 3-mile radius.
What if? Yes,
That could happen.
that could happen. It could happen right here.
Yeah, because, people are human and sometimes they use their authority in their day job to.
This gets back to what we've been talking about all along, which is if you have, what is the whole purpose of having authority? Why do you want authority? If not, to help other people do things that makes their lives better. Why do you even want that job in the first place?
Well, and also too, if the city of Topeka isn't just this perfect running Swiss watch, right? You could find neighborhoods where there's no curbs, gutters, or sidewalks, but we're going to make the guy on the 3-mile radius build it up to the most pristine standards of a subdivision today. And there's inequity in that.
Yeah.
People moved out into the county to get away from the city government to begin with.
Yeah. That could be.
Well, anyway,
Some people just like to.
the upside of
Have a
this
lot
whole
of
thing
land
is we can change it. How we doing on time? Okay.
Time to wrap up this
Well, you
episode.
brought us in, so you want to take us out?
I'll do that.
What are we going to talk about on the next Topeka Factor?
Once again, thank you for dialing in the Topeka Factor with Henry McClure, commercial broker extraordinaire, and myself, Marshall Barber, residential real estate, and many other things at Valley Realtors, your quality corner at 6th and Van Buren downtown. We'll be back with another episode of the Topeka Factor. I guess in the next episode, it's kind of an open playing field, but we think it's going to be based primarily on some specific residential properties.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you and good night.